Have you ever been taken somewhere euphoric through the power of music? As a rhythmic pulse blasted you in all its glory on the dance floor, forcing you to just get up and shake some ass with your fellow species. When a journey through time and space is possible because your imagination can find guidance through a conductor, you can't help but wonder why. Why does one person have the capability of making you feel this way? That's why I'm here. Reflecting back, I can't help but get excited. This journey of discovery has taken me to the city that never sleeps. Vegas is an adventure all on its own. But to me, meeting the man behind the decks, the man who was my first experience into this tribal world of acceptance, is just unexplainable. I've got goosebumps, memories that I just can't put into words. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes. You're about to meet one of mine, DJ Dan.
It's funny because I have a very large family. I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and all my brothers were into rock and roll, and my sisters were into sort of my sisters were into funkier stuff, and I used to hang out with them more growing up. And so I kind of got into the whole like funk scene and funk music and disco, and then sort of got into new wave, and then sort of through that went into the whole like high energy, and then was really big in the whole disco thing. And my fascination was always like, because every year my family would buy me a new turntable, so I just became fascinated with trying to figure out how to mix them together, and that's just kind of how it started originally. I actually managed to rig a way to make them mix together, even though it sounded like a huge train wreck. Yeah, it's good. When I first started DJing, my whole fascination, I think I loved the whole fact that house music had so much samples, and they were sampling. That was my appeal to it, because it kind of reminded me of just growing up wanting to incorporate all those sounds, and then house music was a way of saying, we're going to put all those things into one, into dance music, which was, for me, I really started going out to dance clubs when I was in high school, like about 14, 15, and then finally I was just like, you know what, when I can mix this together, and my friend actually had bought 2 turntables and a mixer, I was like, it'll be my goal to take like the funkiest sounds and samples from places and mix them in and scratch, and it was my goal to try to make the music or my mixtapes as funky as I could. Even when I moved to LA and I got into the techno scene, I'd try to bring in like old school like hip hop dubs and play them at 45 instead of 33, just to get the funky beats, and you know, and then when techno started to go funky, like that was perfect for me. I used to throw acapellas on the wrong speed over the top, just kind of basically say all music is the same, you know, it's all good. My first residency and my first experience DJing was at this club called Belltown Club in Seattle. And it was an area, when I was in college in Seattle, it was an area that had just started up and coming, a little bit hip. It was more of like a college bar, more of the sort of like mainstream commercial hits. But then on Tuesday night, they gave me my own nights. I could mix my own stuff. Even though, like, you know, I might get 15 people at the most, it was a chance for me to like go and practice and play, and in college as well. That was sort of my outlet. That was my creative outlet. And then Donald Glaude actually let me come in and play at a club he was playing at, and went in there and I would do like a half-hour set. Very nervous. You know, I remember the first time I dropped the headphone on the record in front of the whole entire audience, and then I skipped the record again, and you know, and then it was just sort of like, I remember the next time I went back to play there, I moved to LA, you know, started playing in the techno scene, really developed myself, came back and was very experienced and got to play in that same club, and it was spot on. And that felt really good, because I never really intended on becoming a DJ. But to know that I was that serious to go back in there when I was so, you know, before so nervous and scared, it felt really nice. That was really cool. When I first walked into a club and I want to start playing, I always try to feel the energy of the room, and I try to start from that point. That's why I think every DJ has such a big responsibility to set the tone for the entire night. A lot of the earlier Funky Techno Tribe parties, we would talk about that, you know, throughout the entire week of who is going to play, or not what they're going to play, but how they're going to play, so that the entire night was a well-rounded story. I try to read off the crowd for my first few records, and I try to let them tell me what the story they want to hear. I have always felt that the crowd has just as much responsibility in guiding the set as the DJ does. And sometimes when you don't get that from the crowd, you can really fuck with your own head and think, where do I go, where do I go? But I think it's a give and take on both sides. But when you initially set them up with something you think is really happy, really fun, and you let them know you're there to have a good time, you're in a good mood, it's also up to them to keep feeding you back to energy, so you keep feeding those records. It goes back and forth. And that's, I think, the best night of DJing is when there's that synchronicity. I always walk through the dance floor, check out the sound, check out the people, see who's there. I usually, before I play, I always check out the girls. I see what the girls are vibing, how they're feeling. I've always felt that at the end of the day, the girls set the tone for the room. It's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been. And I respect them, and I like to start with them first. I think people respond to house music and the realms of house music differently and more, sometimes even more passionately. It's like a heartbeat, obviously. I mean, the beat just keeps going, and within those confines, it can get so freaky and psychedelic, but then also really moody and nice. And you know, you can make people scared at the same time as you can make them really happy, and you can do it within a matter of minutes. And that have that much power, or to see that energy on the dance floor, is the most amazing thing. And I think the people who've experienced that to the ultimate love this music so much and have become dedicated to it. This music is it does have a very tribal, sort of organic draw about it. I think people, they always think back to their first time that they went out and heard this music and who inspired them, and they always want to return to their favorite DJ or hear their favorite DJ, and they make a commitment to that. It's the only music I've ever witnessed where people will fly around the world religiously to see their favorite DJs, and I think it's really important for DJs to produce their own music because it's your chance to tell your own story. You know, you get to tell your own story through a DJ set, but it's very different when you can sit there from scratch and go, okay, I love these beats, I love these sounds, wouldn't it be great if we could do this and we could create a catastrophe in the middle with this and make a mockery with this, and just, you get to throw all that stuff into one and tell your story. For me, most of my stories through producing have been a bit psychotic. I like to have a lot of fun and sometimes even make fun of the music with it, just to show that it is just fun, you know. I think to the message to society and to the entire world, if I could do it through music, is that it's amazing how much music transcends everywhere, and no matter where you are, a good song will evoke the same emotions in people without words. And if you could make everybody in the world listen to the same song that had that feeling, that brought out that feeling of peace, I think we'd have a much more peaceful world. And it is amazing to see the same record being played in any different country and have the same reaction, and it just, I wish that everybody in the world could actually experience one of these parties that we obviously have within our generation.